Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cambridge University Herbarium Hack How to Do a Workshop. My name is Sabrina Gonzalez Jorge, and I am a plant biology at the Department of Plant Sciences, and I absolutely love the treasure trove that the University of Cambridge Herbarium is. Now, today is our first online transcription project that has gone live on the citizen platform, science platform Zooniverse. Now, the curator of the herbarium here at Cambridge, Dr. Lauren Gardner, is going to demonstrate how one can go about doing the transcribing specimens and contribute to this work. Now, for those of you who are able and might be wanting to have, you can do it at the same time. You can do it with us. Afterwards, after Lauren's demo, we will have plenty of time for questions, and even those that want to have done it during the session with us. Now, before we go any further, there's a few housekeeping details that I must go through. This event has a Q&A box, so because as we are in a webinar mode, so I would appreciate if you could submit any questions that you have, and please do submit questions in the Q&A box, and we will make sure that we can get through as many as we can after the demo. There's a chat function available, and please, by all means, use it to communicate with each other. But please be mindful of the language because any inappropriate use of the chat may result in the function being switched off and the participants being ejected from the session. We would love to know from where you guys are all from, so please do give us a location on the chat if you want to. We will really enjoy that. And please just double check to make sure that you put questions on the Q&A box so that we don't miss any of your really good questions. And last thing, really, in the event of a fire, just make sure you get out. We'll still be here. Just be safe, okay? Now, I would like to introduce my colleague and the curator of the Cambridge University Herbarium, and is Dr. Lauren Gardner.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sabrina. That was fantastic introduction. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully, those of you who joined us for the tour that we had, the virtual tour before this session, we won't have the same kind of technical difficulties that we had earlier, because we're not going to try and play a video. That was the tricky thing. The video and getting the sound working was a nightmare, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do some screen sharing instead, which could be worse. Hopefully it won't be. So for those of you who did join the virtual tour earlier, or who know anything about the University Herbarium here in Cambridge, you'll have seen that we have some really amazing specimens here. We have a really huge collection with many important and interesting specimens. We have specimens which are now thought to be extinct, for instance. We have specimens collected by some really important historical individuals. Even the ones which are slightly less exciting seeming, because we have so many specimens and because they're collected over such a huge distribution, geographically, taxonomically, and over time, they document biodiversity incredibly thoroughly. And they document change over time as well. There's a huge amount that you can do with these specimens with modern day research, as well as the more heritage and historic angles, the sociological angles of interpreting these specimens. It's an amazing resource. But the real challenge here in Cambridge is that our collection is very poorly documented. It's not been studied and researched very much in recent decades. As strange as it might sound, we know we have lots of fantastic specimens, but I can't tell you exactly what we have. I can't really give you proper estimates, really good estimates of how many specimens of each different type of thing, individual collectors, all sorts of different things people would like to know about these collections for different areas of research and interest. So I started as the curator of the University Herbarium here in Cambridge a couple of years ago, and I've been working to try to make the collection much more accessible and more useful and open for research and the public to access. The site where the herbarium is never going to be a very easy one for people to be coming in and out of the collection. And herbarium specimens are kept under careful environmental controls. Some of them have to be quite high security because they just are so valuable. We have nearly 1,000 Darwin specimens, for instance. So having people coming in and out of a collection like this is difficult, like as it would be with lots of museums and archives and art collections, for instance. But what we do have access to is online resources these days. Increasingly, natural history collections like the Cambridge collection are getting their specimens online, digitized as database records, but increasingly as images, which can be hosted online and can be freely accessible to anybody in the world, wherever they are, and for whatever purposes they want to have access to those specimens for. Some of them are incredibly beautiful. We have a lot of botanical artwork, for instance, on our specimens. There's all sorts of different things that people can use these specimens for. So now we can image our specimens, and here in Cambridge we now have a proper imaging set up in the university herbarium, so we can take high resolution images of our specimens and we can make them available online. And over the course of this year we will really be making progress in this area, and we will start to be getting our collections online and available. It's a really charismatic collection, so we can tell stories, and hopefully we have research going on in different areas of the collection as we do this as well. So hopefully there'll be lots of interesting stories, research articles, blog posts, visual materials, online exhibitions, those kinds of things over the next few years around these different areas of the collection. We don't have a catalogue, as I said, either physical or electronic, which would mean that we could search our collections and filter collections, pull out the kinds of materials that I get a huge number of inquiries for. You know, we had a question earlier asking how many female botanists are represented in our collections. I can't answer that question at the moment because we don't have any way of bringing that information together, except for literally looking through 1.1 million specimens and physically looking at the names on them. So a real priority is digitizing a database in this collection. So we will kill several birds with one stone. We will have our specimens more accessible and available for people, but we will also be able to use those electronic records to create a searchable catalogue of the collections. So we are going to be looking at a range of approaches to expedite this digitization activity. Things like optical character recognition, OCR, machine learning, and automating matching duplicate records with those held in other collections around the world are all areas that we can look at. But one of the really exciting areas that a lot of collections are employing now is citizen science and crowdsourcing the online transcription of their specimens. So we would like to have a go at this, and we're going to start softly. We're going to start with some quite easy little projects, and we're launching the first of those today. And this is a set of bryophyte collections. Our bryophyte collections are really extensive. Bryophytes are the mosses, liverworts, and hornworts. A lot of our collection of bryophytes is in little packets, little brown envelopes with a specimen inside, wrapped up with usually with the original collection information on the wrappings, on labels inside, and then the specimen is tucked into an envelope. The little brown envelopes are mostly pre-printed with some particular fields of information, things like the plant name, the location where it was collected, the date when it was collected, and who collected it. That's really, really core information and is exactly the kind of information we would want to capture if we are building a catalogue electronically or physically more in hard copy. So this first project we're going to do is taking a subset of these bryophyte collections which are in these little packets. It's not all of our collections of bryophytes at all. Some of our bryophyte collections are mounted onto sheets, onto more standardized herbarium specimens. But because we have so many of these little brown packets with this really nice standardized, clear information, which is also often typed, so it's it's easier to interpret and to transcribe than handwriting would be. We are imaging those, and we've put the first batch up online. Now, the collection that we've put up is 283 images of these little packets. And that 283 images, each one of those represents one single specimen, one single packet specimen. Okay. Now, these are all of the liverworts and hornworts that we have in our collection, not the mosses, just the liverworts and the hornworts, because those are stored slightly separately. And they are all the ones where the genus of the plant inside begins with the letter A. That's how straightforward it is. So basically, I've imaged all of the A specimens, and we've made them available. What we would love you to do is to start to try to transcribe the information that's on those little packets, and then that will help us to build our database up. Okay, lots of herbaria and natural history collections around the world are using exactly this kind of approach. And it really works well. It's a great way of engaging people in the collections,
barriers.
start telling the stories and provoking interest and more exploration of them in the future. So there are various platforms that you can do this on. The Atlas of Living Australia's Digivols is one which is really popular and works very well for many collections. Another one is the Zooniverse platform. They have a section which is called Notes from Nature. And there are various other ones too, which we may well look at in the future. To start simply, I have set up this project in Zooniverse in Notes from Nature. And I do recommend that if people are interested, that they browse around on the Notes from Nature site and look at other projects, and you can see some really great examples of this kind of work. So this is the first time we've ever done this with public involved in transcription of our specimens. There may be some hiccups along the way, but we are going to give this a go, and hopefully with this nice straightforward set of specimens, we'll be able to do this. Genuinely, even though some of it's actually quite simple, genuinely, this will really help us to make progress with building that proper database of our specimens. So your work will really, really, really help, even if it seems a little bit too simple in some ways. So I am going to start sharing my screen, and I will show you what this looks like. Right, so I am just going to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Yes, I've got the window up here. Right. Okay, so hopefully you can see my window. Actually, Sabrina, could you just unmute and just check that that is showing? Is that showing?
Yes, I can see.
Oh, phew, good, good. There's nothing like speaking into the ether and not knowing if other people can see what you're trying to share. So this is our project page, and perhaps Sabrina, could you put the link to the project page in the chat so that people can click on it and have a play live? So actually, I do have a couple of polls. Does the poll show does the first poll show, Sabrina?
I don't see one yet. And maybe go on to...
How about there?
Yes, we have a poll.
Okay, everybody, I've just launched a poll. Well done, me. That is the first time I've actually done that. Great. So I'd love to get an idea of whether or not many people in the audience have actually had a go at transcribing herbarium specimens before, or natural history specimens before. And I can see lots and lots of results coming in immediately. Thank you. Wow. Gosh, 54 of you, 55 of you. Well, almost all of you have voted already. And overwhelmingly, okay, I'm going to stop end polling, and I am going to share the result. Share the result. Hooray. Okay, 80% of you have not taken part in natural history specimen transcription before. So that's really interesting. 20% of you have. That translates to 12 people who are attending now who have had a go at this before. But 48 of you, 80% of you, have never had a go at this. So that's actually a really, really interesting result. I'm going to stop sharing that result now. Right. And I'm going to go back to my screen. Oh, there we are. Right. Okay, so let's go back to our screen here. So this is our project. And you don't have to sign up. You don't actually have to create an account in Zooniverse or anything like that. So you can just have a go if you'd like to. Don't feel that you have to create a login if you don't fancy doing all those kinds of things. If you do create a login for Zooniverse, then it will allow you to track your engagement, your involvement in these projects. I think it allows you to do more things, including using the forum where you can ask questions and you can engage with other people and you can get more involved. But you don't have to. You can just go into this blind. You should be able to just contribute without signing up. Okay, so if I scroll down, and you can read a bit of information about the project. There's some information under these tabs. So if I click about, you can see a little bit more about the project. You can see me and Sabrina, and then you can go straight into the classification of the specimens. This is the transcription itself. You can go to a chat forum here, and there's various other things you can do here. But let's go back to the main page here. Okay, so this is our main page. Learn more, get started, these buttons. And then down here, you can see the progress with the project. Hooray, 4 of you have already clicked on this and have started having a look. So here we've got a little progress bar which says 0% complete. We have not digitized any or transcribed any of these so far. I'm the one volunteer who has made a start, but this number will increase as people start to get involved. And you can see we've got 283 specimens. And the classification is when someone has transcribed a specimen, that will get counted as a 1 under classifications. Now I have set this so that 3 people have to classify each specimen. 3 people have to transcribe each specimen. That means that we can see if there's any incongruence in how people have interpreted what's on the packet. For these specimens, hopefully we won't have too much of that disparity, incongruence between what people think the packet says, because they're typed, because they are very, very standardized. But when you are looking at specimens which have handwritten labels, more standard herbarium sheets where you've got maybe multiple labels in different places and a non-standardized format and people's handwriting to decipher, then having that extra step of comparing the different transcriptions from different individuals is really, really helpful. You can see if somebody has read a particular number as a 0 or a 6, or yeah, an 8. Actually, Sabrina's just sent me a message saying, can you go full screen? I can't go, I don't know if I can I don't seem to have any option to go full screen.
No, just, yeah, there, right there.
Oh, just that. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Rookie mistake. I thought it was just highlighting the window, not the whole screen. Okay, there you go. It's a little bit bigger now. Apologies, everybody. That's me failing to be able to multitask at the same time. Okay, so we've got our 283 specimens here. They call them subjects in Zooniverse. We have 0 classifications so far, so 0 attempts at transcribing any of these. And so far, none of these specimens have had 3 transcriptions, if that makes sense. There's a bit more information about the project here. There's some links. And then you can click on the button to join in, or you can click up here to get started. Have a play around and see what the options are. You can't do anything wrong. You can't accidentally delete it. You can't accidentally submit something and disastrous. Don't worry. So please do have a play around. And if you have any problems, if you have any questions, please just use the talk section, and you'll see there's various links to that throughout the project, so that you can click in there. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of transcription. I'm going to talk you through actually how to do it. Some of you might like to have a go. As we saw, we've already got a few people highlighted here. 4 people are talking about bryophytes, CGE. Oh, for anyone who doesn't know what CGE is, CGE is the Cambridge University Herbarium's International Code. That's our reference code. It's a lot shorter than writing at Cambridge University Herbarium, so I often just refer to CGE, and you'll see all our barcodes have CGE on them. So I'm going to launch another poll now, and I'm just going to ask you if, let me just say, okay, let's launch it. Basically, you'll see what it says. Launch polling. Would you like to have a go right now? Those of you who are on desktop computers might like to have a go at just clicking on the link now and getting going. As I say, it's quite straightforward. It also doesn't take up a huge amount of memory on your computer, so you should be able to be in a Zoom and clicking through on this at the same time. I'm just going to have a sip of water. You are very, very welcome to have a go as I'm talking. If we were doing this as an event in person, we would have a big room with everybody on laptops and computers. We'd all be talking about it. I'd be doing demonstration live, and people would be transcribing specimens live, and you can ask questions as we go along. So that's a bit more difficult to do online in this format, but if people would like to have a go at transcribing as we go, and you can half listen and half have a look, then when we come to the questions and answers, you can actually ask questions of what you are trying to do right now, and if you're running into any problems straight away. So I'm going to end the polling, and you can see that lots of you are really up for that idea. Thank you. So 79% of you, 42 people, are going to click on it and have a go. So please do have a go. Oh, let's share that result. Sorry. So well done.
Lauren, some of the people that are trying to transcribe are having difficulty with the collection numbers. So
okay, cool, great. So hold your horses, and I will click through and I will have a go at it. So I'll show you what to do. Thank you, Sabrina. That's brilliant. So let's stop sharing the results and let's just get on and do some. So I'm going to close the poll there. Right. So let's actually just do some. So let's get started. Okay. So we are now in the platform. We're in the project itself, and this is the first of our packets. Now, obviously, on your computer, you can shrink and resize your window so that you can see this better. It just about fits on my screen there, so hopefully you can see the whole packet. You can see here on the picture, we've got some options where we can scroll around the specimen image. We can zoom in, we can zoom out. Yeah, you can play around. You can also do things like, and this is really helpful, is for more standardized specimens where you have a, oh, yeah.
There's a bit of confusion. Could you go back to the initial page and then go back, because people are not basically being able, there you go. So
here, go to the get started. Does it, what happens if you go to join in? If you go to join in, that's where you chat about it. That's where you ask questions. That's not very clear, is it? How they, yeah, that button actually, that is a little bit deceptive if people were clicking on that one. If you click learn more, this is where it goes to the about page. Thank you. That's really useful to know that is a little bit confusing. So if you go get started, you go straight into the transcription. Actually, some projects, they have multiple different things you can do with the same set of specimens. So here, you see we've got a link here, Brilliant Bryophytes at CGE, the A-team statistics. If I click on that, you can see our progress. You can see we haven't done anything yet, but you can see there's one workflow. Oh, we've got we've got 9 classifications already. So 9 specimens have already been transcribed as we've been talking. Brilliant. Some projects have multiple what they call workflows, things you can do with specimens. This one is nice and simple. It is just one single workflow. So if you click Get Started, it won't give you any choices. It will just go straight into that one workflow because there is only one workflow. I'm sorry if that confuses you more, but click on that button and you go straight into this screen, and this is your first specimen to transcribe. Now, when we have herbarium specimens where we've got plant specimen on a sheet with lots of handwriting, different labels and things like that, sometimes it can be difficult to read the handwriting against the paper. Maybe it's quite a faint pencil was used, or the paper's quite dark. And you can play around with the buttons down here, and you can see there's an invert image, which will sort of turn it into a negative. That can be really, really useful for deciphering some difficult to read handwriting. You probably won't need to use that with this set of specimens because they are so straightforward. But next week, hopefully we'll launch another mini project on Zooniverse with a different type of specimen. And those you might want to use that button. Okay. If you particularly love this specimen for some reason, you can click the heart and you can put it in your favorites, and there's a favorite section. So if there's a specimen you want to come back to, or you think something particularly interesting or beautiful or whatever, you can add a little bit of personalization on there. And there's various other things you can do, which you're very welcome to just play around with and see what works best for you. Some people like the views to be slightly different to others. But these specimens, as I said, they're really straightforward, they're quite small, and they fit on the screen quite nicely. And the information is laid out in a very, very straightforward kind of way. Now here on the right-hand side, we've got our task. This is the first question. And this is asking for the barcode for the specimen in the format CGE and then the number. So hopefully this makes sense. Do let me know if how I've set these things really doesn't make any sense to you. But what I would like you to do is just type in here CGE 35703. Okay, so that's the number that is on this barcode. Some people who know herbarium specimens and natural collection specimens, they will notice that the way this barcode is laid out is a little bit different. So you've got the CGE afterwards. That's actually a non-standardized way of formatting your barcodes. These are old barcodes. Nowadays, we would just have that printed, so it would just say CGE and then the number straight away. So that's why I filled it in that way. Okay. It's not the end of the world if you fill things in incorrectly. It just means that I'm going to have to do quite a lot more cleaning of the data afterwards. So if you can format it in this way, in the way that I've asked, that's really, really helpful. But it isn't the end of the world if you do it differently.
Lauren, typical questions.
Yeah.
He's asking, where did you get the number from? I guess it's just the herbarium actually barcode. So
yes. So the barcode for the specimen. So you see on here, we've got a barcode on the bottom left.
Now the numbers will be different to this. So the specimen that Lauren is doing will not be the specimen that you are doing. So the number will be different depending on the specimen that you are looking. So
yes. So I will transcribe this one specimen, and then I'll click through to another one. I'll show you doing another one. So this is the unique reference for this one single specimen in our collection. Anytime somebody says, "Oh, can you send me a photo of the bryophyte that's got this particular barcode," I will be able to go to that particular barcode and find that specimen and pull it out. And maybe they need to sample some DNA from it or put it under the microscope and have a closer look. So this is our unique reference for this one specimen. Okay, so this
question might be of just people getting confused. What is the difference between actually having W.E. Nicholson and having herb carrier number 2144?
Oh, please don't worry too much about things that don't a bit inconsistent. That's a whole level. That's a whole other level of extra information that for this project we don't need to do. If we have time in the end, we could talk about what some of those other things mean for sure. But for now, what I'd like you to do is just keep it simple, and let's transcribe just the key bits of information that the workflow is set up to do, if that makes sense. Okay, so if this makes no sense to you at all, what you can do is click here, need some help with this task. Click on here and you'll get a little window that pops up, and it will hopefully just explain a little bit more what we're actually asking you to do. So please enter the barcode for the specimen. This is the number and the little white label on each envelope. In this example, the barcode will be entered as, and here you've got a different barcode. This is CGE 35560. Okay. And then we can close that. Okay. So if I click next, that's entered, and it's asked me a new question. So here we want to add the scientific name for the specimen, and we want it in the format genus and specific epithet. Don't worry too much about the terminology there if you're not familiar with that, but it means the Latin two-part name, the scientific name. Okay, now this is a great example because this is one where you've only got one part of the name. If you really have no idea, you can hit this button and you can say unclear. That will just log it in the system so that I know that that one I need to have a little bit of a closer look at. But I'm going to take that off for now. If I want to find out a bit more, I can say, need some help with this task, click here, and then I get this little pop-up window again. Bit more information about what to do. So I've said, please type the scientific name for this specimen. This is usually a two-part Latin name made up of a genus name plus a species epithet. I know some people won't be familiar with that term, species epithet, but it's that genus and the second part of the name. On these Bryophyte packets, the specimen name is after the printed field SPE on the top right of the envelopes. So you can see in the picture here, we've got one, I've highlighted it, I put a box around it and pointed an arrow at it. And we want to record this first part, the acrobulbus, and the cinerescens part, okay? There's a little bit of extra here. This is the authority. This is the individual who published this name, or the individuals who published this name in the scientific literature. We don't want you to record that. Again, if you do record that, it's not the end of the world. It just means we have to then edit it out later on. So please just do the main scientific name itself. There's a little bit more of explanation here about exactly that. And again, if any part of the text is unclear, you can just hit that unclear button and it will just flag the record as being one that maybe needs a bit more attention. You can highlight the text you've already written and you can then tick unclear, and then that will sort of highlight the bit of it you weren't sure. Okay, so do not enter any text after the plant name. That's the authority information. Some specimens, not all specimens, but some specimens have several Latin names on them, scientific names on them. Okay, so this picture just shows you, and this little bit of text here explains what to do in this case. Now, when this specimen was put into this packet, this was the name that it was under, Fimbriaria parvipora. Okay, so if that was all that was on the specimen, that's the name we would database this as. We would transcribe that name. But more recently, someone has stuck a label on, a botanist has stuck a label onto this specimen. They've said, no, it's something else. And they've put Astrella multiflora. Now, these are handwritten, so you might have to do a little bit of deciphering of handwriting, but this is where you can use that unclear button. If you can't read the handwriting, you can have a go, but then you can hit the unclear button and we can double check it. Okay. A few specimens might have variety or subspecies. It'd be great if you could just write out the whole name, including the variety and subspecies. You don't need to include the authority as well. But don't agonize too much. Don't worry. We can clean the data a bit more afterwards. But if you can do it in this format, if it makes sense and you can possibly do it in this format, it makes it a lot easier. Okay, so for this specimen, as I said, we've only actually got one part of the name. So that's not the end of the world. We can literally just write the genus name, and there is no specific epithet. There's no second part of this scientific name. So we're just going to leave it as that, and we're going to go next. The next field is collector name. Don't worry, there's not too many fields. I'm going through them quite slowly. The collector name is the next field, and this we insert as the surname and then the name or initials of the individual. If there are multiple collectors, just do the first one, okay? So for this specimen, we look down here, we can see Col. Col means collector. And if you click need some help with this task, this will explain that a little bit better, and it will point to the place on these envelopes where that is recorded. Okay, so here in this example, we've got W.A. Weymouth, and I included here in the example below, the collector's name would be input as Weymouth W.A., so surname and then the initials. This means that we can start to search for people. If everything's put into the database in a consistent format, it makes it a lot easier. So that'd be great if you can do it in that format. Okay, so I'll close that and I'll go back to our specimen here. Here, if we go to collector, Col, down here at the bottom, PC, I'm going to mangle how to pronounce this name, Eswong. I would type this as I can't even write or read. So we've got our surname there and we've got our initials there. Okay. If it said Peter C. Eswong, I would put Peter C. Just because then we're not reducing the amount of information content, and we might handle that differently in the database later on, but just write what is on the specimen. So next, collection number. Not all specimens will have collection number. In fact, not all specimens will have a collector, and there's sometimes missing data on quite a lot of specimens. But here we have a collection number down at the bottom. So here, this specimen, just an aside, this specimen was in this particular herbarium carrier, and it was recorded with this particular collection number. Later on, it went into W.E. Nicholson's herbarium, and then it was donated to the Cambridge University Herbarium. Don't worry too much about that history. That's an aside. What I just want you to record is the unique number that's on there. Okay. If you're not sure what the unique number is, you can just write that you're not sure. Actually, for some reason, the unclear button hasn't come up on this one. I'm not sure why. I might have mistakenly not clicked a button there, but just put in what seems to be the collection number. Okay. And the next one is the date. And you see it down here on the left-hand side, we've got dates, and we've got in French, we've got the 6th of August, 1935. So I would put this in, and actually just look at the help with this. You see, this will give you a little bit more information exactly how we'd like to put it in. So when you've got a single digit, it's helpful if you can pad it with a 0, but again, we can edit that later on if necessary. So for this one, we'd go 09, 01, 1914. Okay.
Lauren, quick question. There's been a few specimens that there is no collection number, and people are asking, what do we do? Do we leave them blank, or do we leave a space, or how do we deal with that particular issue?
I will have to, and I apologize for not knowing off the top of my head, if it's set up, I think you have to put something in. So so you could just put a NA, not available, or something like that in there. That's fine. Or technically, yeah, there's different things that you can put, but just put NA or blank there. That's absolutely fine.
Fantastic. Now they say that if you put blank, it doesn't allow you to go next. Doesn't allow you to go.
So you need to type. You need to type something. So just type blank or none or something like that's fine, because we'll filter those later on and make that consistent. That's not a problem.
And one little question: if for the year it only contains a year and doesn't contain a day and a month, how to deal with that?
Yeah. So you just put the year in. That's fine. So if this just said 1935, I'd just put 1935. That's absolutely fine. Yeah. Okay. So this one, this is how I would transcribe this date. Country where the specimen was collected. This should be really straightforward. You've got a country field up here on the top left. So this is China. Sometimes they're not actually countries. Sometimes they are smaller divisions or big land masses. But just write what is in that field, in that box. And the British collections will have a vice county. That's what this VC here is on the left below country. If there's no VC recorded, leave it blank. And if it's not a British specimen, then it won't have a VC. And that one should definitely let you just leave that completely blank. Okay, so we click done. And then I get a little summary of what I've just done. And I can say, yeah, I'm happy with that. If I'm not happy with that, I can click on this talk button and it will actually take me to the forum and it will flag up this specimen and say, help, how do I do this one? And if I click next, it goes on to the next record. Now, I've just spent quite a long time going through that really, really slowly, really step by step. But hopefully you'll see that actually these are, once you get the hang of it, once you get into this, you can do them quite quickly. So I'm going to do this one. So I'm going to put the barcode in like this. I'm going to put the scientific name here. Now I'm going to, if this one has got a question mark, but I'm going to leave that question mark out. I'm just going to put the name as it is right now. Collector name is Alison. And collection number. Oh, now this one's got a prefix. It says H250. I'm going to just put this in as, I'm trying to think what I'm going to do. Don't worry, you can do either, because again, we can clean it later. It's not a problem. I'm going to just put 250. I'm just going to put the number. I'm going to ignore that prefix H. Date would be, see here we haven't got an actual day, but we've got the month. So I'm going to put 09, 1929. And then the country, New Zealand, New Zealand. And we haven't got a VC. And I click done, and it's done. Okay. So that's it. So I've just done 2 specimens. I hadn't looked at those specimens before. I can't control actually which ones pop up. But those were quite good ones to show you some of the different things. You can see here in this next specimen, we've got a longer authority, but we'd record the genus and the species epithet here. Here we've got 3 collectors, and annoyingly, it's just initials. It's not very helpful. That's a tricky one. I think that's the kind of one that I might put, I might mark as being unclear, but I would probably, I'd put the initials, the first set of initials, and then I'd put that it's unclear exactly who it is. The date, you've got July 1899, Scotland, and here we've got a VC number. So here we can put 108 in that field. And that's literally all there is to it. So we go back to the main page. You can see, oh, it's not going to get refreshed. I wonder how quickly it refreshes. Ta-da, we've got 11 people having a look already. We've got 100 records have already been transcribed. None of them have been done 3 times yet, which is why this number here, the completed subjects, has come up. So we'd have to do 3 times 283 transcriptions for all of them to be done. And this bar will fill up as the completed subjects increases. So that's the basics. I'm going to unshare my screen now. And we've got a little bit of time left for questions. Sorry, because we did some questions as we went through that, we did it quite slowly. I haven't got so much time at the end now to go through this, but it'd be great if we could, if maybe Sabrina can ask me some questions live, and we can try and tackle some of the things she's been coming up with.
So one of the questions is, and I think it's very, very good, is that will the information that we get from this project be entered into a database?
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. We will build our database. These records will be essential in building that database. We can have members of staff databasing specimens. We can have students and volunteers databasing specimens and building our database. At the moment, we have very, very little funding for the herbarium. And it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. It's difficult to get funding for projects and research where you don't know what you've got already. So I often get inquiries from people saying, do you have this? Do you have that? I can't tell them for sure. Somebody will ask me how, maybe they've got a project based in Singapore and they want to, how many specimens have you got from Singapore? I can't tell them. I can give them a ballpark estimate, but it could be very vague. Earlier, somebody asked how many fungi specimens we have, and I can't give you a good answer for that. How many palms from Madagascar do you have? Really difficult question because that's taxonomic, but it's also geographic, and the specimens are not laid out necessarily in a way that makes that easy to do. So these records will definitely go into our database as we build it, and they'll be really, really useful.
There's a question here. Is it known who typed up the original labels and when?
I don't actually know. I'm sure I could go back in some of the old archives and find, and I can ask around, and actually, I don't know who actually did it, but there was clearly at least one person who spent a huge amount of time with a typewriter typing those labels. It's so incredibly valuable and useful. They are so standardized. They're perfect for this kind of project. They are also perfect for automating this kind of thing as well. So one thing that we will look at doing, because we've got so many of these packets, is actually automating this and using optical character recognition, pulling the letters out of the actual image themselves. What's nice to do is to, a good idea to do is to compare people doing it manually, actually humans looking at the specimen and transcribing the information, and comparing that with what the computers can do, the algorithms can do, pulling that data out. And then you can build a case for whether actually investing in people doing it is more reliable than what we've got at the moment for the automated side of things, or whether we might want to go more into that area. There is a lot of research on those kinds of techniques at the moment going on around the world. So we'll probably have a combination of this.
Now we have a question. In giving the name Anastrophyllum tonanium, do I need to add the Steph as it is on the label? There's been a few questions about when you have the double Latin name and then you have Steph at the end.
Yeah. So hopefully I answered that as we went through. So yes, I've just found that question so I can actually read it. Yes. So that genus and the species epithet, the two Latin words, names, those are the ones you record. You don't include hooker. That's hooker's abbreviation from Q, and Steph. Those are the people who named it and published it. I could tell you much more about what that all means and how it's constructed, but that's for another day.
Do you plan to include fields to further specify habitat, location, altitude that are listed on the card as you go forward?
We would love to, definitely, and that's one of those trade-offs. We could have people transcribing every single specimen, gold standard, perfectly, every single bit of information that's on that label, transcribing it into our records. That's ideal, but that takes a lot of time. Also, it's not so ideal for crowdsourcing and getting lots of people doing in some ways. For something like this, where we've not done it before, we want to keep it quite simple. The key information that a database will contain, the main things that people will search on are what we've gone through, the scientific name, the collector, the country, the date. those kinds of fields are the really, really key ones. Of course, people want more information than that. But if you can at least pull out all the bryophytes we have, or all the liverworts we've got, which are collected in India, then we can reduce the subset of specimens down, and we can look in more detail at those specimens more closely, and we can transcribe more from them later on. What we could do with this workflow, this project, so we've got this workflow which is the basic information. We can create another one at a later stage which says, right, now can you do the locality information, the habitat information, and the altitude, all the other stuff. Adding that extra stuff slows the process down. So my thinking with this, my strategy here is to do a first pass and get the key information for more specimens, get that transcribed, have a very basic database with that key information in, and then we can come back and we can populate it with more information. Actually, I've just seen in the chat, somebody's asked, just because it's popped up next to me, somebody said, are you going to have the tutorial tab available? It's grayed out at the moment. Yes, so with more complex projects, I would definitely have a tutorial. With this one, because it is actually so straightforward, it is so standardized and relatively simple, and I'm not asking for too much information. We could have a tutorial as well, but actually the information that's in the tutorial would be the information which is in the do you need help with this box. So when I clicked on the box and it popped up with a little bit more explanation and the picture, the illustration of an example and how that would be transcribed, that is the content that would be in the tutorial. And creating a tutorial just takes a bit more time, and a lot of people don't ever even click on the tutorial. So for this particular data set, I decided to keep it really simple, just have the key information being recorded and to have those little pop-up boxes.
Now, there's a question about if there is, between the genus and the species, the name, if there are question marks, do they include the question marks or not?
If you included them, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It wouldn't be a problem. It'd be great, in fact, in some ways. But I think for this, leave them out. In general, just put the genus and species that is recorded on there. Somebody who is interested in a particular group of plants will be interested in all the things which might be that plant. The ones which have got the sort of dubious, is it this, is it not this, question marks on them. So let's include them, because otherwise if you search for that plant name, you've got to search for that plant name, and you've got to search for that plant name with all the question marks, all the maybe, the comments saying maybe, is it, possibly. There's other abbreviations people use like CF, which if you start recording those, then your database becomes actually a bit more difficult to search because it's not consistent. So for this, I would like to pull out what the actual specimens were putatively identified at, if that makes sense. I can also see in the chat somebody's asked, with a particular specimen, should I put North America or USA? Put what it says on the label, on the specimen. Please don't interpret. Obviously, if it's handwriting, you've got to do a little bit of interpretation because you've got to figure out what it says. But if it says North America on the specimen, please include North America. If it says USA, put USA. So don't overinterpret. Don't try to add data, change things, because you're adding an extra layer of complexity in. Somebody might come back and look at that specimen in the future saying, but it says North America. North America is not USA. But then it might. I think the example says it says later on in the location it's California, so you know it's USA. That's interpretation though, and we're not going there.
Now, there's a question here whether or not in the future we will be including the photos in the database with the envelopes data. So basically, they'll be together, envelope and I guess envelope data and the picture.
Yes, ideally, yes, and that's great. So a researcher can come along and do a quick search, pull out a subset of specimens, and if they want more information, they can actually dip in and they can look at them themselves and they can find that extra information. Again, it's all about expediting getting this data more available. Databasing them really, really, really comprehensively and fully will take longer, and it will, the trade-off, it might not be as useful for every, we don't need that level of detail for a lot of things, if that makes sense.
We have somebody here asked, how many classifications do I have to do? I think I did more than 3.
So it's 3 transcriptions of each specimen. So when you click through in a session, you will see each specimen. If you clicked through 283 times on this project, you would see every single specimen once. If you go away and then come back to it another day and you click through again, you can do another pass. You can do them all again. It will come up again. And you can even do it 3 times, and then you will have done them all. But hopefully in the meantime, some other people will have done some too. So it doesn't show you the same specimen again and again and again in a single session, because what we want is other people to look at the same information and to transcribe it. So sometimes people, in a big project, there'll be thousands of specimens, and they'll be like, but I've transcribed 500 myself, and yet the completed subjects bar, the progress bar, is still stuck on 2%. Why? And it's because they've done a lot once, but we haven't got those repeat transcriptions yet coming in.
So I think I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah.
So I would like to say to all of you that did all the questions, thank you very much, the chat, and also just the questions per se. I think we've got a lot of budding transcribers over here, so I think we'll do just fine with the database and this experiment. So I would like to say thank you to you all, and thank you for putting the time and helping us with this experiment. And I will say the last one will be for Lauren to say bye-bye to you all.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm really impressed and excited with how many people who have engaged with it already. And I hope it makes more sense as you go along. Like I said, don't analyze too much. Don't agonize too much. Use the forum. You can answer each other's questions, but I will try to keep up with it, particularly over the Cambridge Festival, and have a go at making sure I'm answering questions and helping people as much as I can. But keep it simple. Just that core information, transcribe what it says on the specimen. I'm going to just do one last poll, and this last one is going to say, would you like to join us? Basically, don't worry, you're not committed to this, but I'd just like to get an idea of whether or not people would like to have a go at doing this, and just to see the interest level there is. So I'm going to launch this poll, and it'd be great to just get an idea of how many of you, do you think you'll have a go at transcribing some of our specimens as part of this project during this festival?
Doing it right now.
The festival runs until the 4th of April.
The biggest SWAT going.
We will do more of this in the future for sure, don't worry. And as I said, we will have another project launch next week, which will be a little bit more complicated. I'll spend more time on the need help with, and I might create a tutorial for that one. But don't worry too much that if there isn't a tutorial, because it's sometimes easier to just have one place where people can get that information. And I personally quite like going through field by field and tackling one field at a time. With a tutorial, sometimes people click through, and it's so long, by the time you've got to the end of it, you can't remember what you were actually doing. So sometimes looking at it field by field is easier for a lot of people. I'm just going to share the results of that poll. I think that's pretty conclusive. 96% of you, which is 49 who are still on the call, have said they are going to have a go, or are already having a go. And 4%, just 2 of you, have said you're not sure, and that's okay too. Thank you so much.
So, because it's a really good question, Lawrence. There's question one: will it be possible to carry on after the festival? So basically, people are keen to help as much as they can with the project. And also, would we get a notification when the next project is available?
Yes. So those of you who signed up for this event and they clicked the would like to hear more information, don't worry, we're not going to spam you. The herbarium is just me at the moment, so I don't have time to write lots of emails to everybody. As much as I would love to tell you everything there is, But we hope to start sending out occasional updates for people on progress with the herbarium, the new website being launched, our specimens going online properly for the first time, those kinds of things. Obviously, you can unsubscribe at any point if you don't want to get those. For this event, if you've signed up for this event and you would, if you've signed up for this event, there's a function within Eventbrite, which means that I can send you an email with updates relating to this event. Again, I will not spam you. That will just be for the constraints of this festival activity. So I will send out a message when that other project goes live next week, and that will have the link. And somebody's just asked, do I only have next week to do this? Don't worry, no, you're fine. What we want to do is get as much done as we can within the Cambridge Festival. So the Cambridge Festival started today and it runs until the 4th of April. So I want to see how many records we can get transcribed within that period of time. Don't worry, it's not going to stop after that. I've got too much that needs transcribing. So yeah, no, there's not a cutoff, but it would be great if you can have a go before the 4th, because that lets us shout about how many people have been involved already. And somebody's just asked how many have been done this afternoon. Sorry, I know we're way over time, but hooray! Okay, I'm going to share my screen just in case people aren't in it already. Let me just close that. Okay, let me share the screen again. Share. Okay, can you see my screen again?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so you can see here, we've got 18 subjects completed already, and we are 6% complete. Nice. So pats on the back all round. That's really awesome. So we've got 13 people have already had a go. We've got 272 individual transcription events. These what Zooniverse calls classifications have been done. This is our 283 subjects, the 283 actual specimens we started with, and 18 have been completed. So this is fantastic. Thank you. That's better than I thought already. So well done. Thank you. Very happy.
The previous event that we just did, and there were people who were asking if there's a way they can see the tour that you did of the herbarium.
Yes. So we did record that. So we will hopefully be able to share that at some point soon. We did have a problem with that. We had some technical difficulties at the beginning, and the syncing of the audio with the video, which was the pre-recorded tour that I did, wasn't matched up, and that was quite annoying. So I might see if I can try to edit that to put that in sync properly, because it'd be great to have that slightly more or less annoying. It's very annoying when it's slightly staggered.
We also have the YouTube channel for the herbarium, so I will put it on the chat, and by all means, please go and have a look.
Yes, we set up a YouTube channel for the herbarium literally a couple of weeks ago, and I've started to put videos that we have already done. You know, there's a BBC article in there. There's a presentation I did for a conference, a very, very short presentation, a lightning 3-minute one about the herbarium, and also a tour that we did last year for another festival. And that's available there. So it's very similar content, not quite the same. I think today's one was actually more comprehensive and yet shorter, weirdly. But we also obviously have questions in those sessions too. So do check that out and have a look. And we hope to add lots more things in the future. So we should probably close, but thank you. Thank you ever so much. And thank you, Sabrina, for all your help.
Thank you, Laura.
Oh, somebody's asked, will the recording of this tutorial be uploaded? Yes, again, it has recorded. I can see it should have recorded into the cloud. And so hopefully we should be able to get that and make that available as well. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.